I don't have a problem. You have a problem. In classic fashion, I already picked up another project. My Jeep is actually in the shop getting painted, and I'm bored, and I have nothing to do because I'm kind of free for work at the moment, so I picked up a new project. Well, specifically, I picked up a new donor vehicle for my next project. You can see it behind one F-150 towing another F-150. So you guys have probably seen at least little sneak peeks of the 1950 Willys cab that I have sitting behind my shop. That's going to be the next body for my next project. I plan on building a custom vehicle using that as the main cab and then doing a completely custom frame, a lot of tube work, complete custom setup on it. I'm kind of flexible on a lot of my design cues, but I think with this new donor, I've kind of figured a lot of it out. Let me go and give you guys a quick overview of the new donor truck, the parts that I plan on using out of it, and then we'll talk about design for the Willys. So this beauty is a 34-year young 1986 Ford F-150 XL regular cab extended bed pickup truck. It's in decent enough condition. It got in a wreck. The truck actually got in a wreck up front here. Somebody fell asleep with the wheel, crashed it into a ditch, and ruined the front steering setup and this tire and that rim, and hopefully that's it. But that's why this truck got totaled, and then it sat for 2 years. Yeah, as you can see, it's a complete truck. Everything is there. I paid a whopping $300 for this pickup truck, and a guy local to me, or somewhat local to me, and I towed it back home after some struggles getting it on my trailer. Even with the winch, it still did not have fun getting winched up there with 2 flat tires, but that's okay. The truck has a Ford 351 Windsor V8 in the front, completely stock. It's got the C6 transmission, and I think an MP208 or BW1345 transfer case. We'll find out when we tear it apart. It's in decent condition. It's got the Ford, the Dana 44 TTB front end, and it's got a Ford 9-inch rear end. All the parts are there. It's got all the drive shafts and everything. Some of them are inside the truck. And it looks like it's in okay enough condition down here. It's got your typical little rust. Nothing too crazy. It's getting kind of beat up. It's going to need some love. My plan in the short term is to tear this truck completely apart, and I want to salvage the entire drivetrain. I want to salvage the front axle, the rear axle, the motor, the transmission, and the transfer case, and I'm going to reuse all of those on the Willys build. All the rest of the truck, like all the body panels, the doors, that toolbox, steering column, all that stuff is going to get parted out and scrapped to hopefully make a little bit of money to finish up this Willys. Let's go and get started. What we're going to do is I'm going to actually start disassembling it on the trailer because it does have 2 flat tires, so it does not roll very well. As a result of that, it's a pain in the ass to get on there, and I kind of have a little slope to get towards my shop space anyways, so we're just going to leave it on there. We're going to start taking stuff off, cutting things off, and start putting parts on the side of the shop over there so that I can start selling them. So let's go and get started with that. All right, I suck at taking videos. I had forgotten how much work it is to tear apart a car, especially when it's out in your driveway and not inside a garage somewhere where you have access to all of your power tools. Anyways, here's a quick progress shot. We worked for about 4.5 hours today. I think I'm about halfway done. If I can get the bed and the cab off tomorrow, I'll feel really solid, and then I can pull the motor out. Once the motor's out, it's easy. I got the whole front end completely disassembled. Both the fenders, all that kind of stuff, the door, everything completely disassembled. So that's a solid progress. For the back end, I've done a little bit. I took out like part of the exhaust. I got the tailgate, the bumper, all that kind of stuff all taken out. My plan tomorrow, I'm gonna keep working from the front and work my way back. So I'd like to get everything disconnected. I'm just cutting stuff because all this is gonna get redone anyways. So I'm just cutting stuff. I'm gonna just keep getting rid of all this excess stuff that's in the front here, pull off this bumper, you know, all that kind of stuff, and try to get the cab free from everything else. Maybe I'll come in here and rip out these seats. Those got to go to the junkyard and a few other things, but that's what that's looking like. I'd like to finish the day tomorrow by getting the bed off. The bed is just a huge thing that's in the way. It's not in terrible condition, but it definitely needs to get pulled off. All right, day 2 here of the F-150 teardown for the very first start of this build here. I pulled the Everlast out. I'm gonna run an extension cord to it. I'm gonna push it out towards the truck and run a really long air line, and we're gonna start cutting the body panels of this truck off and into pieces so that we can make it more manageable for us to dispose of. All right, we're gonna go and get to that, guys. Let's have fun. All right, we're making pretty good progress. I've got the 8.8 rear end out of the back of this truck. I've got half of the bed out, and I've got all the bed sides and everything else out. And then you can see what's left there. I was gonna try to save the frame and list the frame for sale too, and hopefully somebody would have taken it. But I ended up, when I started to take things apart, the frame was not cooperating. I started noticing some rust holes in it and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, never mind. This frame's actually not worth anything with all this rust damage to it. Like, nobody's gonna want to restore this. And I couldn't get anything to come off properly, so the frame is going to get cut. And so my plan right now, as you can look at it, I'm going to just start taking manageable chunks out of this truck all the way up until I have the entire cab off, and I have pretty much just the motor and the front axle sitting on the trailer. Once I have that, I can put my cherry picker on top of the trailer, I can pick up the whole drivetrain, finish cutting the rest of the frame and everything else out, pull out the front axle, I can put the motor, the drivetrain, and both axles off to the side, and then I can reload the trailer with the old truck parts so that I can take it to the scrapyard tomorrow. Anyways, I'm going to keep going. We're about 2 hours into this. I'm trying to see if I can get this done today. I hope I can. But anyways, we're a couple hours into this. I'm going to keep going. Probably not going to record. I'll just show you guys another update here in a few minutes. All right, day number 2 is down. I did another 4 hours of work today. Tearing apart a car like this takes a ton of work. I went through like 40 grinders today. I was using the plasma cutter for a bunch of stuff as much as I could get it to fit. It's just a lot of work, that's all it is. But anyways, here's where we are. Here's what my yard looks like. You got the Ford 8.8 or 9. I need to figure out which one it is. It's one of those two. Body panels, bed panels, frame rails, etc. Garbage, more steel over there. And then back in the corner here, there's the Willys, and then I've got some commando doors, and then all these F-150 parts, and some tires, and some things for my trailer, a radiator. My life's a mess. I promise. I'm an adult, I think. Anyways, here we go. You can see what the front of this looks like. Tomorrow we're gonna finish this up, probably another 4 or 5 hours of work. What we're gonna do is we're gonna figure out a way. So I'm gonna end up a little early tonight. I'm gonna go inside, start working on some designs for the new build, and start kind of thinking about my way forward. But tomorrow we'll finish this up. All right, I'll be honest, this did not go according to plan at all. I might have been pulling the front cross member out, well, the front axles out, and might have dropped it a little bit. I was nowhere near it. I don't mess with jack stands and jacks and stuff. If I'm going to do something on a vehicle, like lower it or lift it or anything like that, I'm always way far away. I use my big Daytona jack. I happen to be back behind this on the trailer when it fell. My mistake. Should have taken a little bit more time and done that a little more carefully, but oh well, we're going to fix this. I'm somehow going to pull everything off of that now. All right. I got it fixed. Well, mostly. I got the front axle completely out now. Finally, I got it out while I was on its side and I could reach the bolts a little bit easier. Might as well take advantage of an unfortunate circumstance. Anyways, there it is. I had to do some weird stuff with that jack. I had to move the trailer a couple times by yanking on it with this strap. It was a mess. We fixed it. It's back on the right-ish side. I tore up my gravel a little bit, but that's okay. While it was down there on its side, I also undid the front crossmember bolts. Now I'm gonna take the steering box off and a few other of these auxiliary things, and I'm gonna try to pull the front of the frame out. Now that it's on the ground, I could actually probably drag my cherry picker out here and probably just pull the drive line, but we're gonna start taking a look at that next. I'm super stoked. I did not think this was gonna work, so I did not even set the camera up to even begin to record because I was not positive I was gonna be successful. But we have the motor, transmission, and transfer case almost all the way in the shop. I just gotta get it over that last little lip there, which I'll be able to do here in a second. As you can see, the weather sucks outside today. And you can see that little chassis jig I built right there with those big tires on it. Turns out the 351 Windsor weighs way too much for those little tiny tires they handle. So I made my chassis jig a dually by putting my dolly underneath it and making it 4 tires on the back there, swivel tires up front. Laid down some plywood underneath the whole assembly out there so I can get some good traction to get the wheels up to slide. And then I was like, you know what? I've got a lawnmower. Let me see if this will work. Tied it up with a tow strap and a grade 8 bolt and just yanked it. As soon as the lawnmower grabbed traction, this thing was just flying into the garage. So there was no time to stop. I was just trying to get as much done as I could. So sorry that you guys missed that. I think it was probably a pretty funny sight watching me dragging this thing behind me into my shop, but that's okay. We're gonna get it the rest of the way up and then we're gonna get it placed in and we're gonna start laying some things out. All right, so we're inside now. We've got that whole motor, drivetrain, everything is fully put into the garage now, everything that we're gonna be reusing anyways, and the F-150 body went to the junkyard. I got a few bucks for scrapping the body and all the material. It's whatever. Truthfully, I just needed it out of my life and out of my house, so it's gone. We got a little bit of our money. We've been slowly and steadily selling some of those parts off of that F-150, hoping to drum up some initial capital to start this project. Let's go ahead and talk about the design of the Willys and what we plan on doing in the short future. The Willys cab is in decent enough condition. It's not great, it's missing its floorboard and it's missing a lot of its firewall, as you guys have probably seen. But it's in good enough condition for us to start with, and given that it's a generally square cab, we're gonna build a custom square frame for it. That frame is gonna be made out of some 2x4 by 3/16 square tubing, and then on top of that subframe, I am then going to build a tube kind of chassis vehicle thing to strengthen everything together. The overall build of this Willys is gonna be like a Willys PreRunner. I'm actually gonna use that TTB Dana 44 that's found up front in the F-150, and I'm gonna beef it up. I'm gonna do a custom hind joint to the frame for the pivot beams. I'm gonna do a custom double swing steering setup. Everything on it is gonna be beefed up as much as I can, but I'm gonna keep it and see if I can build this into a pretty cool little PreRunner. And I'm gonna try to use as many of these old parts as possible exactly as they are. Now, the biggest part of this entire build is actually gonna be the budget. So I wanted a cheap budget toy to play with when I don't wanna use my big Jeep to do something with. The big Jeep, obviously being on tons and length and all this other kind of stuff, should perform really well when I get it back. But that's also a really expensive build. I like driving that Jeep other places too, so I don't want to completely ruin it. The basic build layout of this is we're going to stick with a leaf sprung rear suspension. We're going to be using some Chevy 63-inch leaf springs, some Liquid Iron Industries leaf spring slider boxes, and then we're going to be using some Barnes 4-wheel drive outriggers, hangers, and tabs, and some other stuff on the rear to give it the best leaf spring suspension that we can for a really cheap budget. On the front, we're gonna switch over to coilovers in the front. They're easier to package, truthfully. They're worth the cost to me due to how easy they are to package and set up. So we're gonna be switching to coilovers up front, and we're gonna be sticking with some extended radius arms that I'm gonna custom make, and then we're gonna beef up those TTP beams and that Dana 44 housing to handle the 33 to 35-inch tires that we're gonna run. The rest of the chassis is gonna be all tube work off of the initial frame. So far, I've already bought a few parts. I'm waiting on them to come in the mail right now. But in the next video, we're gonna lay out the basic frame and a subframe for the motor, drivetrain, and transmission, because I'm gonna have the entire drive line actually be able to come from the ground and then install into the vehicle from the ground up instead of coming from on top, coming into the vehicle like a normal car would. So next video is gonna be subframe and the basic frame layout. And then the video after that, we're gonna actually start to see some suspension components and some other things go into place to get the Willys to fit. So thanks for watching, guys. Stick around for these videos. I'll get them out as quick as I can, I promise. We're gonna just keep knocking this out. I'm trying to get as much done as I can, as fast as I can on this. So this is gonna be a really fun one, so stick around. Also, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. I'm super excited for this video. I've not ever seen a 1950 Willys PreRunner. F-150s are pretty common to turn into PreRunners, but we've got some really cool ideas with this. I hope you guys like it. I hope you guys are excited as I am. All right, take care, guys.